Hello and welcome to ORH Hatter, where we're back again to talk about another Luton defeat. It's not really a surprise at this point, but we've got to talk about it. And this week I'm joined by Jamie Castle. How are you doing, Jamie?
Yeah, not too bad. Been a pretty shit weekend sport-wise, to be honest. Not only did Luton let us down again, but the Buffalo Bills let us down in terms of the AFC Championship last night, which is yeah, sad. But yeah, up till 3:30 in the morning this morning to see that through. So probably a little bit tired today.
When Jamie says us, he means him. I'm also joined by Adam Driscoll. How are you doing, Adam?
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, another podcast. You know, we come on it a bit deflated, don't we? And we didn't have one last week because we're all busy. I tweeted sort of tongue in cheek about not turning up like the players, and they haven't really turned up again this week. So we are here. We are going to talk about it, and yeah, we'll jump into dissecting another defeat on Saturday.
And we're going to do just that. We're going to be talking all about Luton's 1-0 defeat at home to Millwall. But before that, don't forget to check us out on socials. That's at ORH Hatter on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. And check out our website as well. That's oakroadhatter.com, where you can find our merch store with plenty of great options to keep you in the Luton spirit, even though if the football on the pitch is getting you out of it. But we'll get straight into things, Jamie. It was a 1-0 defeat at home to Millwall, the reverse fixture of when we visited there, when we actually got our only away win of the season so far. I say so far, can't see it coming anytime soon, but that's for another podcast. But yeah, it was 1-0 defeat, but it could have been more.
Um, do I agree with that? I'm not sure I agree overall that it could have been more. I think yes, clearly they had more chances than that one, but we had a few chances as well, mainly from set pieces where we could have scored as well. I think they think they edged it, and I think they probably did deserve to win. Had we got a point, I think that would have been okay based on performance. But yeah, I think probably a fair result. Clearly, they had a penalty save from Kaminsky. I find it quite funny that it was Connolly of all players that had it saved. Just given his reaction when he came to us as a Brighton player in a friendly, which is pretty funny. But yeah, I guess more of the same really. And I say more of the same in terms of apart from the last two performances. I think the Preston home game was good defensively. I think caveated by the fact that Preston were bad offensively. And then the Oxford game was better in the attacking areas, but then lacklustre in defence. And the game on the weekend was, yeah, probably the worst parts of both performances really put together. Some changes were made. I think Anderson coming back in probably was the right move on the basis of Holmes' performances in the first two. Didn't take his chance whatsoever, which is frustrating. Alfie came in, which obviously good to see. I thought he was okay. Personally, I think I was surprised to see him at left wing rather than left back, but I think Bloomfield was trying to work out his best 11 and trying to work out where the players best suit his system. And then Brown on the right, he's not really made the most of his chances under Bloomfield. He's played on the left twice now and then on the right again at the weekend, and just seems to lack any sort of, I guess, if you look back at when he played for us in the Prem, off the ball he was an excellent presser, and he gave us so much up top in terms of sort of trying to press their back line, but he's just lost all sense of doing that this season, and I guess it's just him in isolation summarises where we're at as a club right now on the pitch. So yeah, it's really frustrating. And yeah, if there was any doubt on our last pod, I mean, our last pod was just as we'd appointed Bloomfield going into that Preston game. If there's any doubt on the last pod that we are in a battle to stay up, then that is left in no uncertain terms now that we are in a right dogfight. And we've got a pretty big week ahead of us.
Yeah, you mentioned there we're in amongst it in the relegation battle. We are firmly in amongst it now because teams above us have got leads on us, and they're starting to open up a gap. And with our terrible goal difference, it is going to take a string of results to get us out of it. But yeah, let's talk a bit more about the game, Adam. We saw a penalty in the first half, obviously, as Jamie mentioned, which Connolly had saved by Kaminsky. And to be fair to Kaminsky, it was a very good save. He managed to get his foot to it with the penalty going down the middle, which you don't really see very often, players deciding to stay down the middle.
Yeah, you don't. And if they do go down the middle, they're generally not putting it on the floor. Yeah, I think a penalty. When you see penalties like that, you always look a bit daft as a striker or the player taking it if you go down the middle and the keeper has a good trailing leg or stays where he is. So yeah, it was a pretty poor penalty. But that said, Kaminsky's done well to keep his trailing leg there, but also then I don't know whether it's luck or whether that you could say there's a skill element of not knocking it straight back to Connolly. So the amount of times you see it go straight back to the striker and they tap it in. So yeah, I mean that was probably the only time I think I got off my seat in the 90 minutes, to be honest with you. Which is again a theme that's been apparent all season. And yeah, I mean, I think maybe the last couple of weeks Kaminsky might have had his critics at certain goals, but I mean, without him, we'd definitely be rock bottom, and we'd be even thicker in this mess that we are at the moment. So yeah, fair play to him. But from there, really, the reaction I expected to see from our players, there was nothing really, was there? Absolutely nothing. I think the crowd got up for a good 3 or 4 minutes, but ultimately nothing from the players at all, really, which is again hugely disappointing.
And once again, as it was at Oxford, obviously for those who didn't see that game, it was a bit of a shit show again defensively. But on that game, as was this game, Mark McGuinness was probably our best attacking threat from the set pieces. Am I right in thinking that, Jamie?
Yeah, I think he had one or two opportunities. I think Carlton Morris had a couple as well. That's one in the first half, shooting towards the Kenny end, where he probably hits it almost too cleanly, and it goes into Walsh and then ricochets around, and then Jensen in goal manages to get a hand on it. And then in the second half, a really nice sort of outswinging free kick on that wide right from Clark finds Morris at the back post. And again, I think hits it too cleanly. Brown's there. He probably should be on his toes a bit more to try and get a tap in, but wasn't to be. So yeah, I think McGuinness and Morris were probably the two players that looked likely to get us a goal. Other than that, not a lot. And it took a bit of quality from Ivanovic, which seemingly we have no quality at the minute now, because I can't see any one of our players that pulls off a goal like that.
Yeah, it was a fantastic finish by Ivanovic for Millwall, catching it on was it a volley or a half volley, and sort of lifting it in time so it dropped low enough to beat Kaminsky. Do you think Anderson should have done better in the build up to it, though, Adam?
Yeah, maybe. To be honest, I'd have to look at it back again. I mean, there was a bit of sort of controversy around whether the ball had gone out. I think about sort of 10-15 seconds before at the other end of the pitch. So yeah, that was the biggest thing I can recall from the goal. But I mean, as Jamie said, it's a good finish. We've conceded enough goals this season where you sit there and go, like, what the hell are we doing? I think for that one, I'd probably be hard pushed to make too many claims of sort of inability from our perspective. But it doesn't help the situation, does it? When you haven't got that attacking intensity and threat, and someone scores a good goal and makes a good finish. It's hard to see how we react to that. So yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look at it back again in terms of like individual blame, but certainly a really really good finish. So fair play to the guy.
I think for me, Anderson can do better. I think you can get into the detail of in the build up, and there was a nice sort of passing move through the middle from Millwall, and maybe one of the midfielders could have latched onto it faster. But in terms of the actual action of getting a shot away, I mean, Anderson's body shape is just completely wrong. He's trying to sort of like scissor kick, side kick, some sort of block, but then is just way off balance, misses it completely, then overshoots Ivanovic, then tries to come back, and but sort of he's done that a bit too late for that shot to get away. So it was defending from a centre half that quite clearly is lacked games and has lacked the I guess he's not sort of kept that in-game management, that sort of that defensive knowledge that you need to just basically just clatter the centre forward and just don't let him get a shot away. I mean, at the time he wasn't booked, so just foul him and just stop the shot. So yeah, I think it's just a lack of intelligence from Alisson, to be honest. Someone that quite clearly is rusty, and I get that. And it's just it seems like the situation that we're in a massive rut of just mistakes, players just having just not really thinking about how to react to a situation or deal with that sort of build up better. So it's really frustrating. I think great shot in the end and a fair play to him, but yeah, you can defend that much better.
And that's been something we've seen for, well, all season really, defending not being good enough. We saw it at Oxford in massive fashion with the third goal they scored. For anyone who didn't see it, but apparently no one in the Luton box saw it either, because the only player that saw the ball coming in was the Oxford striker, and it's just been the tale of our season so far.
And it threatened to happen again as well. But at 1-0, it was Hashi getting dragged in. I can't remember who dragged him in actually. I think would have been whoever was playing left wing at the time for Millwall sort of comes inside. Maybe it might have been Saville actually, who was sort of more in like an advanced position, and Hashi was trying to man mark, came inside, and Hashi just follows him all the way to basically the penalty spot. To then just open up a massive hole for Ivanovic to get away again, a half volley that I think was unfortunate. It bounced down into the ground and bounced up for a fairly easy save from the keeper. But yeah, I mean, it's happened again twice in 2 games, and I think that for me probably is a pretty big issue in the sense that I think generally Hashi's okay. Across the 90 minutes, generally I think he performs for a decent standard. I think in terms of the one-on-one ground duels and especially the sort of in the air as well, I think he's fairly strong. Going forward, he's good enough, but I just think he's prone to 1 or 2 lapses of concentration and sort of maybe 1 or 2 lapses of judgment and spatial awareness of actually just let Saville go, because you've got 3 Luton players to your left that aren't marking anyone that can pick up Saville and just make sure you stay in your position. So whether that's tactical feedback from the manager to say, look, we really want to go big on this man-to-man marking, so you follow him all over the pitch, or whether that's just him not taking on the changes from Bloomfield. Because I do appreciate man-to-man marking. I think when it works, it works really well. But you just have to actually understand that maybe when he crosses a line on the pitch, that actually you just don't follow him the whole way, because then it opens up the space for players like Ivanovic to find. And I think if that was a better team or a better player, then that would have been 2-0 and game done. So yeah, I think that again is, I think generally across the team, it's just moments for the players. It's not necessarily that they just pour for like the full 90 minutes individually. I just think they're just moments where they just do something really stupid, which is ultimately is vital for our performances, because it means that we're losing games at a dramatic rate at the minute.
I just chip in there. So I lied earlier on when I said that I only got out of my seat once, because I got out of my seat for that when Hashley gets dragged over and this guy's got like half the pitch at the back post to get a shot away. And as Jamie said, we're insanely lucky that he didn't catch it any better. But it just shows, doesn't it? It shows that naivety that we have in terms of individual players understanding their responsibilities. And are we going to go on and talk about the week to come and things? But it's not just about signing players that for positions and roles that we don't have bodies. It's about bringing in quality, and you need to have particularly defenders that understand where they need to be at what time, and who's around them and who they're marking. And it's just the basics of defending. But you see it time and time again that we get sucked into the middle, how many times this season, if you look back at all the goals, have you got 3 or 4 defenders within arm's length of each other? And then you've got the opposition players popping up around it. It's just countless occasions. And it's not just a case of we need attackers to score goals. We need defenders that understand their responsibilities and where they are on the pitch and where the opposition are as well. So we certainly need to shape up in that respect as well.
And I've spoken about it and I've asked about it before. And do you think that's just a lack of leaders in the team across that back line, a lack of communication? Do you think it's something that we're missing completely in the team? For me, I don't think Morris should be captain. I think that's a obvious situation. All he does is moan at the moment, and I'm so fed up of seeing it.
Yeah, I was literally thinking whilst you were talking there, Finn, before you said it, that I mean it's a hill that I would die on. I disagree that any centre forward should be captain. Like it should be. I think that the most advanced player that should be captain is probably a sort of a more deeper line midfielder. I think that is like the most advanced player that should be captain because I mean as a centre forward, your job is to score goals. Your job isn't to organise a back four or organise a team shape. Your job is just to get on the end of it of any balls you can and try and stick it in the net. I mean, I think to be fair, we do that leaders at the back anyway. I think McGuinness probably is the most likely to get the armband next. But again, you've signed a player in the summer and he's already probably the biggest leader we got at the back, which is I think a captain should be someone that's been in the squad for a little while, but other than that, there's sort of a lack of leaders. So yeah, I agree. I think we desperately need a centre half or even a fullback that is the experience at this level to just be able to organise a back four. And we just haven't got that at the minute.
And it doesn't matter what level of sport or what sport you play, but when there's a complete lack of communication in a team, it's going to cause problems. I play pretty low level sport myself and constantly moaning that no one talks enough during games. And when people do talk, it completely lifts a performance. It makes you organised, and we just have nothing like that on the pitch. I think if we were playing behind closed doors like the COVID period, we'd be up against a team talking to each other, and we would just be completely silent, which I think is one of the more concerning things among many, many concerning things, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. We don't have any leaders, do we? Like, I completely agree on Morris. His post-match interview, everyone needs to stick together. Well, I'm sorry, mate, but that time has been and gone. Like we stuck with all you boys last season because we understood where we were, what we'd done, the resources, and we actually put in an effort on the pitch. Like every game, we got spanked in a couple, sure, but 9 times out of 10 we put in an effort, and the players put in an effort, and the crowd responded to it. This season, you cannot stand there and ask the fans to stick together because you're leading this club on the pitch, and the players, including him at times, in my opinion, are not putting a shift in at all. So I appreciate someone's got to come out and do the interview, apparently, because I don't know why. You might as well just not speak to us anymore. But you cannot stand there and say everyone needs to sit together. Like you just can't do it, and that really pissed me off seeing that interview, because firstly, he's not a leader, as we've just said. And secondly, you're giving us absolutely nothing to work with at all. So, yeah, I was trying to be quite quiet on social media on Saturday night, just for the fact that I was inside raging and didn't really know what to say that's not already been said. Yeah, leaders is a massive thing. We need many of them. We're not going to get probably any or not many this week. So whatever happens in the summer, wherever we are, the first thing I'm addressing is bringing in a couple of leaders on the pitch in those probably centre half and centre mid positions, really.
And is it not somewhat ironic that the leader Matt Bloomfield brought into Wickham this season was one Sonny Bradley, who we all know all about Sonny Bradley's time at Luton, where he was a real leader and something we're completely lacking. I mean, the quality wouldn't be there, but he certainly would. He would be saying something on that pitch right now. Yeah, I wanted to talk a bit more about something you mentioned there, Adam. You said about Morris wanting everybody pushed in the same direction, and I think it's quite clear that if the crowd, most of, if not all of at this point, have turned on the players and the club as a whole, with probably only Matt Bloomfield, Alfie Doughty, Thomas Kaminski, maybe one or two others being the only ones still getting the backing from supporters.
Yeah, I mean Saturday, the lap of honour as we call it, seemed to take a long time to get started. I think probably you've got the players there watching the fans, thinking, "Let's get as many out as possible before we get anywhere near them." They they retreat further and further away on this lap of failure. Let's call it that now. Um, and yeah, I mean Bloomfield did the early walk and got a few boos. Uh, Harsh, I think. Not his fault. None of this is his fault. He's trying to implement what he wants to do. Like it's not his fault. So maybe let's have a think about if you're going to boo, maybe just don't do it while he's on his own with all the players sort of a million miles behind him. But yeah, it was pretty toxic again, and it's just not good enough, is it? It's just shambolic from top to bottom in the club at the moment. I genuinely can't even remember what the question was now because I've just gone off on this disgusting rant about where we are. So yeah, not good at all.
I mean, you sort of answered exactly what I asked, really, because
Okay, good.
yeah, I'm sure Jamie can attest for it as well that the players have lost the fans completely.
Yeah, I think you could probably name something that every single one of our players has done wrong this season. Like you could probably go through the list and just pick them out one by one, and I think that's just led to a whole, I guess, lack of belief from the fans. I just don't feel any of the fans believe that we're going to get out of this mess. Like I've not spoken to anyone that thinks that yeah we'll get out of it. Yeah, I think we're too good to stay up because you can't even say we're too good to stay up anymore, which is shocking given the fact that you've come down from the Premier League and you've not got a squad that is deemed too good to stay up in Championship. Um, so yeah, a bit of a loss to be honest. And I think the only way that we can get out of this mess is through the transfer market. Now we've got a week left. I think we've got a week and 6 hours roughly to try and get ourselves out of this mess. Whether we will was probably another debate entirely. I've probably made my feelings clear on Twitter the last few days. And all I can say is the amount of people that are agreeing with me on Twitter is increasing by the day. Like, and I think had I had put stuff out like that 2 months ago, 3 months ago, people would have been like, no, we'll sort it in January, or we'll do this, we'll do that. But now everyone is just in full agreement, and yeah, I think it's not rocket science at the end of the day. I think Edward has given us that quote about 10,000 managers, but yeah, I would right now back some sort of polling system where every decision is made by Luton fans, and then the highest voted thing is what happens. I would back that at the minute. And I think that just shows I get that actually shows how much of the shit we're in.
The club put out a post-match survey, as they have done a few times over the last couple of seasons, and the final question: is there anything else you'd like to feed back from your experience at Kenilworth Road? Has not exactly gone down well with the Luton fans. I
What
know
a
my
brave
friend
what a
said
brave time to send it
my
out.
friend said it would be more enjoyable if we actually signed some players, and he said to me, I won't name him. He said, "I'm not excited to go to games anymore. I just go for the sake of it." So, Jamie, I just wanted to discuss what your response to the post-match survey was.
Yeah, I did see that. And to be honest, I think a lot of people are feeling the same way. I think in terms of we've got 7,000 season ticket holders, and put it this way: had I not had a season ticket, I would have not gone on Saturday. It's becoming too easy to make an excuse. We got Wednesday away next weekend, an away that if we were top 10, fighting for playoffs at worst, I would have gone in a heartbeat. But yeah, you find every excuse in your personal life as to why you should prioritise something else at the minute. And I've got better things to be doing than spending my hard-earned money going up to Sheffield and watch that shower shit pretty much. So yeah, I think Finn, you said you're going because you've not done Hillsborough, and that's a fair enough reason. Like if it's a ground I've not done, then I'd do it just to tick it off. But other than that, it's just yeah, it's not worth spending the money at the minute.
Yeah, it's a lot of money to support a football club, and fans constantly going, because I think the reason people are still going is because it is their routine and it's what they love to do. But it's getting harder and harder to actually enjoy a Saturday or a Tuesday on a Tuesday, whatever day we're playing, because it is just absolute. Well, it's absolute shite. It's a shambles on and off the pitch at this point. I think people have seen that it's turned on Gary Sweet and the board quite significantly in the last few weeks, and it's causing a serious problem there as well, Adam.
Yeah, massive problem. You've got Gary Sweet, who I looked earlier on was the Championship Chief Exec of the Year, announced in May 2023. Honestly, he couldn't run a bath these days. Like, it's just ridiculous. I mean, the inner workings of the club seem very, very different to what we've been used to. And Gary Sweet's the CEO. He's responsible for everything piecing together. Yeah, every single department that we speak about, like whether it was the early season chats we had about like club shop and like merchandise and ticketing and whatever. Then we had a bigger discussion about recruitment. He is the guy that oversees all of this. Um, there's a few people recently, particularly that around this weekend, that have mentioned around, do we need a director of football? Because I think we're now at a point, in my opinion, where you have to split the future project of Power Court, and you have to split that completely away from the footballing operations of the club, because clearly we are blinkered and we're being hampered on the pitch by the distractions of what's going off on the pitch. So yeah, I just think that we're out of touch. We're completely out of touch, and it's no wonder we're seeing the toxicity, because all we're getting is program notes that are passive aggressive. We're getting all bark, no bite. We're getting comments around the fact we've made sizable bids, but then we get a caveat where it says, like the next paragraph, whether we welcome those players into the changing room remains to be seen. It's like, we do not want to hear that. I'd rather you not mention the bit about sizable bids and you actually pull your finger out and get these players in, because with every statement there's just a caveat, and no one wants to hear it. So yeah, I mean, I just think we need to have a massive overhaul in the summer and really look at the structure of the club, regardless of whether we stay up or not, because we're in reverse, and we're going quite quickly with the current setup with the board and chief exec.
Just on that point about getting like a director of football in, I think we've been crying out for it for not a while, but certainly a year or so. The only person in the upper echelons of senior management at Luton Town Football Club that is actually a football man is Mick Harford. Everyone else, they are music industry, they are sort of in real estate, they're people that just aren't football people. Like Rob Stringer is no doubt awesome at his job at Sony, like in the music industry. You've got Michael Moran and Gary Sweet, like I bet they're awesome at that their own niches, and there's no taking away from that. Power Court, bar the obvious elephant in the room of it being 25,000, they have smashed it with the plans of the designs and the ancillary pieces around it. Like they've absolutely smashed it out of the park, but they're not football people. And you've got board members making sort of pretty crucial sort of choices on things that they don't really have a Scooby about, and the only thing that they know about football is what they've learned along the way, and the majority of that period along the way is lower league football. And then they now need someone that is experienced at operating an elite level football club, and just give them complete sort of like the complete power to run the footballing side of the operations. Yes, give them a budget. You got to stick to this budget. That's fine, but at least then they know what the boundaries that they are working in, and they can operate that side of the business sort of in those boundaries. Because right now, yeah, like the only person that knows football is Mick Harford, and I might be hounded for saying this, but I think he's been used as a bit of a pawn at the minute by the board, is because he is this Luton legend, and a lot of Luton fans hold him in such high regard, quite rightly, based on what he's done for this club. But he's now coming out and sort of saying things that he's probably been fed to say by Sweet and Co. And I would love to get in a room with Mick Harford and hear what he truly thinks about recruitment, the way things are working. Him coming out saying, "Oh yeah, well, it's really difficult shopping in overseas markets because we've not got scouts abroad." But don't shop there then. Like there's enough talent that we've mentioned on this pod over the last year of players that we could have signed that were based in the UK. If you don't know the market, don't shop there.
Or build your scouting network, but one of
or
the two.
yeah, you signed Hashioka, and I think the consensus, if we did a poll tonight on keep or sell, would be sell. He came from, obviously he's Japanese, but he came from the Belgian league. You've signed him, and it's a sign that hasn't really paid off. Sluga didn't really pay off. You've got obviously the main fans come in a bit early, and you don't know. I think Kraus has done okay, but like our record at signing players from the overseas markets is pretty bad. I think sort of if you look at things relative to everything else, and I just think again it's just another excuse that Mick's put out just to try and defend a lack of activity when there's plenty of options in the UK market. So yeah, a big yes for director of football. That above anything in terms of manager or signing or whatever on the pitch, a director of football should be the number one thing we do in the summer.
And we'll talk more about transfer activity and business after our break, but we're going to go to a quick break now. As I mentioned before, don't forget to check out the Oak Road Hatter website for all our merch if you want to do a bit of shopping and do something the club's not. Welcome back to Oak Road Hatter, where I'm still joined by Jamie and Adam, and we're going to reluctantly talk about Luton's transfer business, or complete lack of, because it looked pretty positive when the window first opened, with the very early signing of Christ Makoso, who has disappeared into the under-21s as expected, and then the signing of Isaiah Jones, who, despite brief positivity, has now completely disappeared into the abyss that is the Luton Town squad. But since then, it's been pretty quiet. Apart from, at time of recording, a third bid for Richard Kone, Matt Bloomfield striker at Wickham, and apparently this one is reportedly in the region of £6 million. Jamie, talk to me about
that. I mean, first of all, I just couldn't stop laughing at the start of this half, just because I think that just sums up our transfer business. Yeah, New Year's Eve signing Mikoso, and we all knew it was one for the future, but I was like, okay, right, it's getting stuff done early. I like this. And then you do Isaiah Jones. Yeah, I like the signing. It's what we need. We need pace out wide, and you expect there to be something else. And we've now got a week to go of the window. We've dropped 14 points in January. And yeah, the only link we've got of any real substance is the signing of Kone from Wickham, who don't get me wrong, if you take away all of the context around number of bids, amount that we're supposedly bidding, he's a very good player. I've not watched loads of him, but from what I've heard through people and watched of clips, he's just a younger Adebayo, but one that is when he was playing good rather than this current Adebayo. Hopefully, anyway. I think he could be an all-round top level centre forward. He's 21, so he's got obviously lots of growth in him. But then when you apply the context of he's had less than a full year of very good performances, and we're now putting in a third bid in the region of £6 million. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can dispute that it's aggressive because yeah, I think it is, but I think it's desperately aggressive at this point because again, you've got a week to go, having seen what we've put out on the pitch over the last not season, but a few months in particular. And now you're thinking that you need to act. And look, if we sign Kone, as I said, I think having Kone is better than not having Kone because both Morris and Eli right now is they're obviously they're not putting in the level of performances that we need to have. But I tell you now, if we get Kone and just Kone, we're going down because he like we've got 17 games left. But let's say he's a 1-in-2 man. He's going to score 9 goals. That's not going to be enough of a change to keep us up. So yeah. If he comes in, I'll like it. I think we would have spent too much on him, but ultimately we're desperate and we need to get new players in. So I'll take it, but we need a lot more than just Kone.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, I mean, first things first, if we do go down, at least we've got someone that can score goals in League One if he comes through the door. So, one eye on the future. You can't, 2020 have always got an eye on the future. But I absolutely agree. I think, firstly, is he going to want to come? I mean, you're talking, you're probably offering quite a bit on wages to get him to move away from Wickham right now. I guess we did the same with Bloomfield, but you've got to convince the guy to come and join a relegation scrap rather than a promotion bid. So that's the first thing. That's not straightforward. But yeah, the signing of Kone individually isn't enough because, and the reason we're in this position where we're probably paying £6 million for him, which you might say is maybe a couple of million more than you'd like, is because everybody knows the situation we're in. Clubs, agents, like we have to spend over the odds on transfer fees this week. We're probably going to have to pay more wages than we'd like because we're at that point of desperation where we need to bring in multiple players. So I don't mind the 6 million fee if it is 6 million, but we've probably, in my opinion, got to be looking at something like 15 million, including that fee, where you're bringing in him, but you're also bringing in another 3 or 4 players as well. Because unless we give him something, we won't score goals. We need the creativity and the movement around him and behind him. Otherwise, he won't have the impact that we're hoping he will have. And yeah, I mean, I think he works really well at Wickham as that one up front because you've got quick and aggressive and attacking forwards alongside him as well. So we need the same. Yeah. So let's see where that progresses. I mean, if they knock back that bid, are you going to go in with any more? Like, it's just
Got
going
to
to be a
walk
waste
away,
of time,
surely.
surely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and then the question comes of, all right, what's your plan B? Do we have one or not? So the fact we're putting in multiple bids on Kone to me suggests we're gonna get him, but we're gonna haggle all the way along that road if possible. And you just think, have a conversation with Wickham, right? Ask them what they would want. Decide whether you want to pay it. If you don't move on, if you do pay the fucking fee, and let's just work on a few other deals this week because yeah, it just feels like we're just sort of like, oh, well, can we get a couple of quid off here and there, like £5 million and a Fredo or something? Just pay what they want. Just get it done and move on to someone else because we need multiple people coming in this week.
Yeah, you're exactly right there because in an era of instant communication, you'd think that there wouldn't be multiple offers going in and being rejected. There would be that
Yeah.
discussion because I find it very difficult to believe that there isn't a contact at Wickham after we just took their manager. So you'd expect it to be pretty easy to get hold of someone at Wickham to go, what are you willing to accept for this player? And I can imagine it's probably the same with the vast majority of players that if there are any other players we're interested in, which I haven't seen anything about other players we've been linked with in and around English football. There's one that's had very weak rumours overseas, and I cannot remember where he's from or what his correct.
Goebbels from St. Gallen in Switzerland, yeah, was one.
Yeah, we know basically nothing about him other than it's potentially a loan. I imagine the club probably know as much as we do about him. But what other positions do we need, Jamie? And how give me 3 positions in order of most needed to least.
I think firstly, just 2 quick points on Bakakone. I think I completely agree with you both that you've just signed their manager, who probably was in meetings with the board and the recruitment team discussing what sort of fee they would accept for Kone, number one. So the fact that it's taken 3 bids to try and get to £6 million suggests that they've not asked the basic questions. Number two, what does concern me slightly is we built a recruitment team, and by that I mean like analysts, in terms of Jay and Phil, who build up this data room of players that are showing up well on data, track players for a few years that they feel that could be good signings, sort of, and they try a few times to try and get someone. Kone's only been good for a year, so this is very much recency bias. They're desperate going for players that are currently on form when there's no real long data sets on a player that actually is putting a good level of performance over a period of time. So that concerns me that we're deviating a little bit from our usual transfer policy in terms of sort of really looking at players and scouting them sort of really highly. Although I do note that sometimes you have to move fast based on players that come out of the blue. I just wanted to make those 2 points. In terms of what we actually need, I mean, left back, one, because Amari Bell's starting to place out since he's returned from injury. I think that's not being harsh at all. He just seems to have lost all sense of legs or agility. Like, I used to love the runs he would make from left centre back up sort of through the middle of the pitch. You used to sort of get past one and get past two, but you just can't beat a man anymore. And in a left back role where you expect some attacking impetus, I mean, maybe not as much as sort of like the Nathan Jones League One left back that we had in terms of JJ, but you expect a lot more from Amari there, and he's just not going to serve the purpose. And I think if personally, I play Doughty there, but if you're not playing Doughty there, then you need to strengthen there desperately. I think I would have not said a centre half up until probably in that Millwall game, but I think on the basis that Mengi's probably out for the season, Lockyer's not going to make a return. Burke hopefully will soon, but we all know what he's made out of. So then you've got Holmes and Anderson and McGuinness. I just think that I just don't see enough in Holmes or Anderson alongside McGuinness to really give us what we need to sort of shoot up at the back. I mean, someone I mentioned on the group chat was Matt Clark. He's currently at Borough. He's played hundreds of games at this level, really good sort of level centre back, but he's on the bench at Borough and he's not getting games. He's left footed. We've not signed a proper left footed centre back since we lost Naismith. So I think he would be a great option on a short term loan, or maybe even a permanent if we can get him. People have been saying right back, but I think we're fine. We've obviously got Walters and Hashi, and I think again Hashi can do more clearly, but I think those as 2 options are fine for now. And you can't resolve everything in a week. The other area that I think that we need to sign is a more creative midfielder. We played football last year. Basically, we relied on Barkley and Lukonga for almost all of the season, and we just haven't replaced either of them. We probably have replaced Lukonga with Baptiste, but again, he's gone into the abyss that is the medical room. So we need to sign a midfielder to replace Ross Barkley. And again, like, let's be realistic, we're not going to sign someone as good as Barkley, but there's surely going to be a creative midfielder out there that has the quality to be able to play for the lines, because right now we just haven't got that quality. And I feel for Bloomfield if we can't get in a play like that, because again, I think Kone was a big part of what he did there, but Humphreys in at number 10 was a really sort of advanced number 8 type player that I think pulled a lot of the strings at Wickham. So if we can replicate that sort of player here, then that will be a big help as well.
Adam, you asked people on social media what we need in the window. You said for me, we need at least four signings to have any chance of survival. And you got some thoughts of some fellow Luton fans, and I'm just going to discuss them now because, I mean, there's plenty of agreement that there's a lot needed. We'll start with Luton Town Exile, who said he'll stick with your four, and he gave us four options. He said an on-pitch leader, which is something we've discussed at length in this podcast, but preferably a dominant ball-playing centre mid. Again, something we've discussed throughout the season and just don't think we've seen at any stage, Adam.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, logged on to socials this morning. First thing I see was Coventry trying to sign Matt Grimes from Swansea. Like, perfect, absolutely perfect. Someone who grabs the game by the scruff of the neck. Nominal fee, I think they're looking at because of contract stuff. I'd have been going for him when the whole Ben Sheaf thing shut down in the summer, something like that.
Yeah.
We spoke about it on the preview pod. He is a top championship midfielder. So yes, I do agree. But even in some of the other responses, the general consensus was the same. It was we need probably four players. I think that was sort of the average answer, and all in the same areas. And I agree with Jamie. I think you need a left back, as Jamie said already. You need a centre half that can move because as good as McGuinness and Holmes can be at the physical side, they're not quick enough. And Burke's injured, and Bell's lost his legs, so you need a centre half that can move as well. I think you need a creative midfielder, someone that can be like, because if we're going to play like one up front, you need someone that's going to be close and bringing the play to that striker and getting it out wide. We've mentioned someone like Scott Twine already, the opportunity we maybe had in the summer for someone like him. That sort of mould of attack-minded midfielder. We need someone like that. We obviously need the striker as well. I think that's four, isn't it? I think so. I mean, I would make an argument for a left-footed attacker, but I appreciate you've got Trong coming back, and that could be the position that he plays. So I could understand maybe why they're not maybe looking at that area. But yeah, I mean, I think everyone's sort of in agreement with the areas that we need to fill and the type of players that we need to be bringing in as well, really.
Yeah, I'll just quickly run through some of the other responses, but essentially they're all down those similar lines. So along with his on-pitch leader in midfield, Luton Town Exile said a further striker, which I guess the Kone links sort of deal with, but we have spoken about the price tag on that. A goal-scoring midfielder who can do the mileage. We don't have anyone in midfield who can do the mileage or score goals, apart from Jordan Clark, who's in his 30s. A rampaging right wing back, which I think we already have. It's just not playing well at the moment in Hashi and Walters. Luton I said a left back, as we mentioned, a centre back, as we mentioned, some midfielders, as we've mentioned, and striker, as we mentioned, and also some pace and some leaders, which is everything we've just discussed. So it's a good thing that at least, whilst nothing is happening on pitch in terms of cohesion, everyone in terms of fans is in agreement with what we need. But one that I wanted to highlight in particular, just because of the level of concern it raises, is Tony Reid, who said, I don't think it will make any difference. If Matt Bloomfield is having players bought for him, then we're fucked. And I think that is all that needs to be said, Jamie.
Slightly agree. I think I agree because it's maybe a little bit sort of too little too late. But I mean, I overall I've been impressed with Bloomfield in his first week or so. I think he I see what the board were impressed by when they were in talks. So I see why they brought him in. But he's just not got the squad, and I think people saying that you're seeing now it wasn't Edwards' fault. I slightly disagree. I think Edwards has just exacerbated a situation by sticking with a system for way too long that clearly wasn't working. That has just completely destroyed some previously pretty good players. He's just been destroyed. We've lost this Luton culture, which has been mentioned before, but that's not because of the fans. That's because of what's happened at the club. So Yeah, I mean, going back to the original point, I feel like buying players is the only way out of it, because this current crop are either not good enough or are completely shot to pieces. And hopefully, if we can inject a bit of energy and a bit of fresh blood by way of 3 to 5 signings, then hopefully that would then start to either shoot a rocket up some players' arses, or actually bring some confidence back across others. And you know what they say, that sometimes good players play better with other good players, and if they're played with shit players, then they're dragged down. Well, maybe if we can replace 3 or 4 of the shit players, then some of our other good players will actually start to play better. That's the hope anyway. It's maybe a bit too basic, but we'll see if we even sign some players.
Yeah, keep telling us your thoughts on what you would like to see in the closing stages of the transfer window. So let us know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or get in touch with us on social media. That's at ORH Hatter. And yeah, tell us both the positions we need, and if you have a specific player in mind, we'd love to know that specific player and why. But from the three of us, that is everything. So I'm afraid it's yet again been a pretty downbeat podcast, but there's been absolutely loads to discuss, and we'll be back during the week to look ahead to a trip to Hillsborough.